Well, we made it. No more Gospel of John chapter 6 and endless talk of bread. Thank God. As Reverend Catherine mentioned, today actually marks the beginning of the season of creation, an ecumenical and international movement to devote ourselves to pray for and act with love and hope towards the care of God's beloved creation. For the next 5 Sundays between September 1st and the Feast of St. Francis on October 4th, we will give special attention and intention in our liturgy to lifting up and celebrating the profound tapestry that is this universe, in which our planet is only one tiny, minuscule stitch. At first glance, it might not seem that our gospel passage for today has anything to offer us in terms of caring for creation. Challenge accepted. Thank you. Worked hard on that one. Jesus calls out some Pharisees and scribes from Jerusalem when they ask Jesus to account for his disciples not following the tradition of the elders by not washing their hands before eating. Legitimate and fair question, especially as we have grown in our own understanding of good hygiene practices for the purposes of public health safety. But this is not really what Jesus is arguing against in his response. So I don't want to hear anyone suggesting that their priest told them it was okay not to wash their hands anymore. So we're clear on that, right? Great. Jesus calls the Pharisees and scribes hypocrites, quoting from Isaiah, "This people honors me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. In vain do they worship me, teaching human precepts as doctrines. You abandon the commandment of God and hold to human tradition." And in the verses that are left out of the reading, Jesus describes a practice of giving money meant to assist the elders, our mothers and fathers, as an offering to God instead, which increases the coffers of the institution by essentially taking away Social Security. So he is calling out this judgment on his disciples for not following the tradition of the elders, when the leaders themselves are harming the elders by flouting God's commandment to honor mother and father. It is an issue of hypocrisy rather than hygiene, cleanliness of heart over cleanliness of hand. Don't pay lip service to the law, Jesus says, without following up with genuine practice of that law. And what we learn from Jesus is that the commandments of God boil down to 2 parts: love God, love neighbor. So don't pay lip service without living into genuine and real action to follow this law. Because the commands to love God and neighbor are meant to be completely transformative. They require everything of us: body, mind, soul, and strength. I think we often forget the strength, the resolve it takes to really live into that kind of love. And that love of neighbor extends to God's creation. All that is before us is a part of the created intention of God's love. A love that God beheld at the beginning and saw as good. And we, as image bearers of that love, are meant to reflect that love to all around us, human and non-human alike. But Jesus cautions us about the real temptation of deceiving ourselves into hypocrisy. Listen to me, all of you, and understand. There is nothing outside a person that by going in can defile, but the things that come out are what defile. For it is from within, from the human heart, that evil intentions come. And then follows the familiar list of sins. We may pray for and give thanks for the beauty of creation, but what are we really doing to make sure that it remains healthy and beautiful? And what determines its beauty? Is it based on what humans appreciate or on what makes the whole ecosystem well? Do our practices only serve to help and uplift humans at the expense of other creatures? Or can we find a third way that allows all to thrive? Jesus wants us to recognize the real danger of deceiving ourselves into thinking that we are true practitioners of our faith, when in fact our actions do not always align with our words. He locates this hypocrisy within the human heart, which, if not checked, can easily deceive itself. Cleanliness of heart, then, is of utmost importance because that is where relationship with God, with neighbor, with creation truly begins and resides. This is where religion, whose etymology is the same as the word for ligament, shows its truest form, as connection, as a way to bind together. We see this in the letter of James, who tells us that religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this: to care for orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself unstained by the world. He echoes Jesus' use of Isaiah, that we cannot merely be hearers of the word without also being doers of that word. Lip service is not enough. To do the word of God is to care for the ones at the margins, the ones with no power or voice, which includes all the species of this planet, not just the human one. We must care for them and their distress also. And we must keep ourselves unstained by the world, not the world of God's creation, but the world of human creation, the powers and principalities, the institutions, the evil intentions that can fill our hearts. But this is possible. James reminds us that we were born by the word of truth so that we would become a kind of first fruits of God's creatures. We can be a part of the healing and reconciling of the breaches in our world. You must understand this, my beloved. Let everyone be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger, for your anger does not produce God's righteousness. Therefore, rid yourselves of all sordidness and rank growth of wickedness, and welcome with meekness the implanted word that has the power to save your souls. Welcome with meekness the implanted word that has the power to save your souls. What a powerful statement. God buried within us this word of truth that has the power to save, to heal us. And if we can humble ourselves, bringing ourselves back to the ground, the humus, we can welcome in that truth and live in that love. But that requires listening, understanding, resisting speaking out of reactivity or growing in anger. It requires honestly assessing what lies within our hearts in order to live into the implanted word rather than evil intentions. I want to make clear, however, that this is not an either-or dualistic notion. We are not either living only with evil intentions or through the implanted word of truth. Both exist at all times, and we are capable of living into either with every action, behavior, and decision we make. And so our work is to practice listening to understand, not to respond, and to truly check our intentions with each action we take. This requires community. It requires connection. It requires trust, and it requires loving kindness. And it requires tapping into that image-bearing love we hold within us from our very creation. It seems fitting then to end with the passage from the Song of Songs, with its vibrant imagery steeped in examples from nature depicting the love between God and our soul. The voice of my beloved. Look, he comes, leaping upon the mountains, bounding over the hills. You can feel the exuberance of this love, yearning to be near to and with the beloved. My beloved is like a gazelle or a young stag. Look, there he stands behind our wall, gazing in at the windows, looking through the lattice. This intimate portrait of God's love, of peering into our souls through the windows and lattice of our minds and hearts, is captivating and breathtaking. But God does not merely behold God's creatures and creation with loving intention. God reaches out in invitation, hoping for reciprocity in this intimate connection. My beloved speaks and says to me, "Arise, my love, my fair one, and come away. For now the winter is past, the rain is over and gone. The flowers appear on the earth. The time of singing has come, and the voice of the turtle dove is heard in our land. The fig tree puts forth its figs, and the vines are in blossom. They give forth fragrance. Arise, my love, my fair one, and come away." There are seasons in our lives where it can feel as though God is far away, removed, or absent. But God, as beloved, tells us that God was never gone, but near and waiting for the winter and the rain to pass, so we might behold God there before us, showing up in the fragrant smell of the flowers blossoming and in the harmonious singing of the birds and the bees and the crickets. The time of singing has come. I love that line. Time to rejoice, for we are God's love and God is our beloved. Arise, my love, my fair one, and come away. Do not remain cooped up, God coaxes, but get up, come away from the dwelling, and allow this love to flow forth from your soul so that the world can be infused with its singing and beautiful fragrance. If we all lived our lives with that kind of passionate outflowing of the mutual love between God and our soul bursting forth from ourselves, the world might find true religion, the binding and connecting of all God's creation with one another, and we might achieve true salvation, the healing of the universe. What a beautiful world that would be. So as we take this journey through the season of creation, Pay attention to what you are watering, nourishing, and cultivating within your heart. May we all choose to welcome and grow with meekness that implanted word that has the power to save our souls. And may we truly experience ourselves as beloveds of God and reflect that love throughout the universe. If we can tap into and harness that love, then imagine the beloved community we might come to behold.